Well, there was a lot going on at that recent Assembly of First Nations Annual General Assembly, including the $47 billion child welfare reform offer, as well as support for an inquiry into the murders of 4 Indigenous women in Winnipeg. Pierre Poilievre's first appearance and the vote to not proceed with a forensic audit of the AFN's finances. Here to discuss is our weekly Truth and Politics panel. Jennifer Lewitz is the CEO and partner at Pasqua Harbor Strategies, and Niigaan Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Jennifer, Niigaan, great to have you with us as always. Niigaan, as mentioned, a lot going on at the AFN there, AGA, the child welfare reform offer, voting down the audit, and more. What stuck out for you from the AFN's AGA?
Well, maybe perhaps the stories that were not said, the fact that former National Chief Roseanne Archibald is suing the AFN, the fact that this was new National Chief Woodhouse's first run, which was fairly anticlimactic, but the quashing of the the forensic audit that Roseanne Archibald spent her entire run seeking, I think was probably the most notable thing that was not talked about on the floor. Just quickly, with an emergency resolution, can be wiped away. But for me, the most marketable moment, or the most marked moment, is when Pierre Poilievre spoke and Jagmeet Singh spoke at the same time, one after another. Pierre Poilievre stated a very hard 30 minutes. There was a little bit of controversy with the speech. I thought he actually did a pretty good job in terms of talking about the interests of the Conservative Party in relation to the AFN. It was the first time that a Conservative leader has appeared at the AFN, and also the first time Pierre Poilievre has appeared, so notable. But the fact that it was a hard 30 minutes, and then Jagmeet Singh, the kind of laudatory relationship that he has with the chief, staying for almost an hour and receiving applause by simply saying he's willing to stay that long. I think those are two very marked differences, and I think Poilievre can take a big lesson from Jagmeet Singh on how to build a relationship with the AFN.
Yeah, Jennifer, heading into this, the fact that Poilievre was going to be speaking was the headline, but coming out of it, it was a little different, with the veterans and others standing up and turning their backs on Poilievre. What do you make of his first time there?
Yeah, I had tweeted actually about this because I was live tweeting as I was watching the stream, waiting to do the news. And so I hadn't seen the people standing up with their backs turned. So what my comment was, is I had heard applauses, and I tweeted saying it is a little weird for me to hear applauses in Indigenous advocacy spaces for government representatives, because no matter what, I think, we can work and we can collaborate with our federal government and their representatives. But at the same time, I don't know, to me, I'm like, it is a little weird when you're clapping. But at the same time, I think it was a very important move for him to actually show up, especially as we hear that he's potentially going to be the next prime minister and form government. I would have liked to see that relationship with the Conservative Party open a long time ago. Stephen Harper didn't come to AFN. In 2022, Pierre Poilievre had submitted the video, and that didn't go over well. And so now we're just finally seeing that relationship being built, a year out from the next election. Seems a little late in the game. But I hope that advocacy and that collaboration is going to start ramping up, especially over the next year.
Niigaan, the offer on the table from the federal government for child welfare reform, that was a secret at the start of the week and trickled out, became a news conference at the end of the week that $47 billion, more than double the initial offer, has been presented. A lot of discussions going to be happening in a short period of time over the summer on this. Your thoughts on the package that's been provided?
Again, it's sometimes the stories around the story that are probably the most interesting. The lack of the appearance of Cindy Blackstock, who is the only reason that agreement even comes close to happening. It really has very little to do with AFN. It's because of the dogged pursuit of Cindy Blackstock in getting the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal rulings, multiple rulings, that Canada is failing children on reserves, and therefore they're entering into the child welfare system. And the fact that Cindy Blackstock came out and said that there are some very concerning elements or hands within that agreement that maybe the money may not always just reach children or families. I think that's a concern. But generally, you know, it is a situation in which the Liberals need a good feel-good story. They need to move this story along. And the AFN wants to appear like they're doing their business because of the big controversy with removing Roseanne Archibald. So it was a we need each other sort of announcement that ended up with this agreement reaching the public.
Jennifer, your thoughts on this proposed agreement, and do you think it can lead to the necessary reform in the child welfare system?
I think the announcement was necessary. I am also extremely disheartened to not see Cindy Blackstock involved in that. I believe, truthfully, she should have been front and center. I take a little bit of a different approach on the funding announcement, because what concerns me is the multi-year funding announcements, because we are potentially going to see a change in government next year. So right now I'm like, okay, chiefs and councils, like, be advocating with the Conservative leader and putting a lot of responsibility back on the Conservative Party, and I guess soliciting an answer from Mr. Poilievre on whether or not he's going to uphold those funding agreements and make sure that that funding gets to our nation, so that as they could continue creating their capacity building, we continue to see that. In terms of whether or not I think the funding will be sufficient enough, I think, yes, I think that this is playing a vital role. There are many nations in Saskatchewan taking on the work on capacity building, but at the same time, there is that responsibility to make sure that we are using that money to build the capacity effectively, and it's not just funneling through consultants or lobbyists or whatever it might be, and not actually getting on the ground where it needs to go.
A lot we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, as we head into the meeting that will be held here in Winnipeg in September over the deal. Jennifer Degon, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much.
Thank you.